What if your healing journey is just another mask? What if the journaling, the therapy, the meditation, the breathwork, the glowing crystals on your windowsill aren't actually healing you, but distracting you? You light your candles, you stretch, you sip your tea, you tell yourself you're evolving, you repost quotes about letting go and forgiveness, you listen to a podcast that says the universe has a plan. You think you're getting better, but deep down, something still feels off. You're doing all the right things, yet the same pain lingers in the quiet. The same voices return when the music fades. The anxiety still knots your chest. The shame still creeps in after the applause. And that voice, it says, this still isn't enough, because despite everything, you still don't feel whole. Here's the hard truth. You may not be healing. You may just be avoiding. Avoiding what Carl Jung called the shadow, the part of you you've rejected, abandoned, feared, the part filled with rage, jealousy, guilt, grief, and memories you'd rather erase, but it's still there. And all your positive affirmations can't silence it. All your light can't dissolve what you've buried in the dark. Real healing isn't about becoming more Zen. It's about having the courage to look at the parts of yourself that terrify you, the parts that scream when you're finally still. Because if you don't face your shadow, it doesn't disappear. It controls you silently, every day. This isn't just about trauma, it's about truth. And healing isn't love and light, it's blood and bone. It's sitting with what you're afraid of until it no longer has power. So I'll ask again, what if your healing isn't healing at all, but just a prettier way to run? Before we dive deeper, take a second. If this message is already stirring something in you, hit the like button to let me know you're here. And if you want to keep exploring the hidden corners of the psyche, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when I drop the next video that just might change how you see yourself forever. Now, let's go where most people are too afraid to look. Let me tell you a story. It's not dramatic, it's not tragic. In fact, it might sound eerily familiar. There's a woman, we'll call her Claire. Claire does everything the modern healing culture tells her to do. She wakes up at 6 a.m. every morning, rolls out her yoga mat, and moves her body through sun salutations as the soft morning light spills across her apartment floor. She listens to lo-fi meditation music while she journals about gratitude. She's read The Power of Now 3 times. She's doing her best to be present. She's cut out social media for the most part. She calls it a digital detox, says it helps her reduce anxiety. She sees a therapist once a week. They talk about boundaries, breathing techniques, and the importance of self-love. She's trying to live slower, love herself more, and be intentional. And yet, when the apartment is silent, when there's no playlist humming, no lavender oil diffuser running, no YouTube guru telling her how to reframe her mindset, Claire feels it. That sharp, inexplicable tension in her chest, that irrational guilt when she says no, that sudden wave of sadness that has no clear reason, that whisper inside that says, "You're not enough. You've never been enough, and everyone can see it." She brushes it off. Maybe it's hormonal. Maybe she's just tired. She makes tea. She takes deep breaths. She calls it self-soothing. But deep down, she knows. She knows there's something deeper, something she hasn't touched, something she's afraid to even name. The truth is, Claire isn't healing. She's performing healing. She's doing everything around the pain but never going into it. She's soothing symptoms but never treating the root. And like many of us, she's mistaking control for transformation. This is not to shame Claire. She's doing what she knows. She's following the script that culture handed her. Light candles, set boundaries, do the inner child meditation, smile, move on. But there's a truth Claire hasn't been told, at least not loudly enough. Healing isn't peace, healing is war. Not with the world, with yourself. Because real healing, the kind that Carl Jung spoke of, isn't about feeling better. It's about becoming whole. And you can't become whole by rejecting your darkness. You can't evolve by only loving the parts of you that are easy to love. Because buried underneath Claire's routines, underneath the calm, curated version of herself, is a basement full of unresolved grief, hidden rage, unspoken fears, childhood wounds, unmet needs, and all the emotions she was told were too much. These aren't just psychological leftovers. They are the shadow. Jung's shadow. It's not some spooky spiritual concept. It's the very real part of the psyche that contains everything we've disowned, everything we were punished for expressing, everything we were shamed for feeling. It's where the ugly stuff lives. And most people, like Claire, spend their entire lives building their identity around avoiding it. But what happens when the shadow isn't faced? It leaks. It leaks through self-sabotage, through emotional numbness, through the "I don't know why I feel this way," through that cold emptiness even when life looks good on paper. Claire smiles, but inside she's exhausted from pretending. She says she's healing, but deep down, she knows she's hiding. And here's where this gets personal. Maybe Claire is you, or maybe you've been her, or maybe, like many of us, you're somewhere in between, oscillating between growth and retreat, between surface comfort and inner chaos. This isn't to say therapy, yoga, journaling, or boundaries are wrong. They're vital. They're powerful tools. But without the courage to face what lies beneath, they become coping mechanisms, not tools for liberation. Carl Jung said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." And isn't that what so many of us are doing? Creating rituals of light to avoid the shadows inside? Labeling our pain as growth when all we've done is bury it deeper under prettier words? The moment of real transformation only begins when the masks fall off, when the silence isn't filled, when you finally say, "Okay, I'm ready to look, I'm ready to feel, I'm ready to remember." And if you can sit in that space, not fix it, not rush it, not explain it away, but simply sit with it, you're no longer avoiding the shadow. You're inviting it in, and that is where real healing begins. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." At first glance, it might sound like just another profound quote, something to toss onto a Pinterest board or pair with a moody photo on Instagram. But if you truly understand what Jung meant, it's one of the most terrifying and liberating truths you'll ever hear. Let's break it down. The unconscious isn't some mystical fog. It's not some far-off concept reserved for philosophers and therapists. It's everything you've forgotten, denied, rejected, suppressed, or never had the language to express. It's that time you were 5 and told you were too loud. It's the look of disgust on someone's face when you cry in public. It's the shame you felt when you got angry, and the belief you formed that anger itself is dangerous. These experiences didn't vanish. They sank. They went underground into what Jung called the shadow. And this shadow, it isn't evil, it isn't something to be exorcised or erased. It's you. It's the part of you that's been waiting for your attention, for your acknowledgement, for your love. But because it holds the pain, the rage, the envy, the desire, the chaos, we avoid it. We pretend we're only made of light. We say things like, "I'm just trying to be positive. I don't want to dwell on the past. I've forgiven and moved on." But positivity without integration is spiritual bypassing. Forgiveness without acknowledgement is emotional repression, and moving on without processing is just running away in circles. So here's the paradox. The more you run from the shadow, the more power it gains. You think you've escaped the pain, but it shows up in your relationships. You think you've let go of anger, but it bleeds through passive aggression. You think you've healed, but you still flinch when someone gets too close. Why? Because healing is not about light. It's about wholeness. Jung didn't want you to be pure, he wanted you to be whole. And wholeness demands you claim your darkness. Do not act it out. Do not unleash it recklessly, but integrate it, make peace with it. Understand where it came from and why it still lives within you. Let me say this plainly. You cannot heal if you only tend to the acceptable parts of yourself. You cannot evolve if you refuse to acknowledge the part of you that wants to scream, destroy, rage, cry, or collapse. That part is not your enemy. It's your wounded child, your neglected self, your inner protector, who never got the tools to express itself safely. Shadow work isn't a trendy buzzword. It's not aesthetic. It's brutal. It's humbling. It's messy. It means confronting your jealousy instead of masking it as detachment. It means owning your manipulation instead of calling it emotional intelligence. It means admitting that you've been fake kind to avoid rejection. It means saying, yes, I've hurt people, and I've been hurt, and I carry both inside me. And this level of honesty, it cracks something open, not to destroy you, but to finally let you in. Carl Jung believed that the psyche isn't something to be fixed. It's a system that seeks balance. So every part you disown will demand expression until it's heard. That's why people sabotage relationships just when they're going well. That's why you might procrastinate on the one thing that could change your life. That's why random anxiety shows up before the biggest opportunity. It's not random, it's the shadow. It's the unconscious banging on the walls of your perfect little identity, yelling, "Stop pretending. I'm still here, and I'm not the villain. I'm your key." We've been trained to fear the dark, to demonize what's uncomfortable, to chase pleasure and avoid pain. But what if the darkness isn't the enemy? What if it's the doorway? When Jung said, making the unconscious conscious, he wasn't talking about becoming perfect. He was inviting you to become real, to look at your inner contradictions, your inconsistencies, your impulses, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Because when you stop pretending to be only light, when you hold your own darkness without shame, something remarkable happens. You begin to feel free, not because everything is fixed, but because nothing is hidden anymore. You're no longer performing peace. You're living truth. You're no longer running from the monster. You've realized the monster is just the part of you that wasn't loved. And now it is. Look around you. Healing has become an aesthetic. It's carefully edited Instagram posts with soft lighting and beige linens. It's TikToks of Sunday reset routines with green juice, yoga mats, and candles flickering beside glowing salt lamps. It's influencers talking about inner peace while promoting $80 journals and $200 meditation memberships. It looks peaceful, it looks meaningful, but it's often a performance. In today's culture, especially here in the West, healing has been hijacked by consumerism. It's no longer about facing yourself, it's about presenting yourself as someone who's done the work. But you don't need to dig deep when you can just post a quote. You don't need to examine your pain when you can buy a crystal and call it alignment. And maybe the most dangerous part? It works at least on the surface. It gives you something to hold on to. a temporary illusion that you're moving forward. But in the quiet, when the phone is down and the world fades away, you still feel hollow. You still feel stuck. You still don't know why you're anxious, irritable, disconnected, or lost. Because the kind of healing that sells isn't designed to set you free. It's designed to soothe you just enough so you don't wake up. Carl Jung warned about this long before hashtags existed. He saw the dangers of what happens when we ignore our inner darkness and build identities on selective self-awareness. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Carl Jung. This quote hits harder today than ever. Because we're not just avoiding our shadows, we're monetizing the avoidance. We've created an entire industry built on spiritual sedatives. It's socially acceptable now to say you're healing, as long as you don't get too real about what you're actually healing from. Because real healing isn't photogenic. It's messy. It's nonlinear. It doesn't come with a playlist. And that's where Alan Watts enters the conversation with razor-sharp clarity. Trying to get rid of your ego is the ultimate ego trip. Alan Watts. In a world obsessed with ego transcendence, this quote is a gut punch of truth. Because even in our spiritual quests, our self-help journaling, our conscious breathing, ego sneaks in through the back door. We try to become healed, whole, enlightened, not to liberate ourselves, but to feel superior. It's still a performance. It's still image-based. And in that chase, we forget. The goal was never to look better. The goal was to become more honest. Shadow work, the very thing we avoid, is the antidote to this illusion. It doesn't care how mindful you seem. It doesn't applaud your aesthetic. It isn't impressed by your bookshelf full of self-help bestsellers. It demands one thing: radical self-confrontation. It asks, can you sit with your jealousy without justifying it? Can you admit your desire to control without dressing it up as boundaries? Can you look at your resentment, your self-pity, your pride, and own them, not judge them? Because here's the truth. The parts of you try to suppress don't go away. They grow stronger. They show up in your tone, your choices, your relationships, your patterns. You might say, I've let go, but the way you flinch in intimacy says otherwise. You might say, I'm at peace, but the passive aggression in your voice betrays you. You might say, I've moved on, but your silence, when triggered, reveals the truth. Shadow work exposes this gap between what you say and what you carry. That's why most people never do it, because it's not sexy, it's not profitable, and it definitely doesn't get you more followers. But what it does do is set you free. Free from the constant need to perform, free from the exhausting loop of fixing what's not broken, free from the weight of pretending to be healed when all you really are is scared. And it's okay to be scared. This work is brutal. It asks you to take off the armor you've worn your whole life. It asks you to give up the image you've curated. It asks you to tell the truth, not the polished version, but the trembling, naked one. Because healing doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens in the shadows, in your most private moments, when no one is watching, when it's just you and the part of you you swore you'd never face. So what does real healing look like in today's world? It's saying, I am not just my affirmations, I am also my rage. I am not just my boundaries, I am also the one who crossed them sometimes against myself. I am not just my forgiveness, I am also my pain. That's not regression, that's not failure, that's integration. And integration is the key to freedom. Because the moment you stop trying to purify yourself and instead embrace all of yourself, You stop chasing light and become whole. Stop fixing the mask. Start facing the mirror. You've spent so long trying to look okay, trying to seem healed, trying to convince the world and maybe yourself that you've moved on, that you've let go, that you're fine. But maybe you're not. Maybe you've been tending to the surface while the wound beneath it never closed. Maybe all the mindfulness, the routines, the affirmations, the good vibes only posts were just sophisticated ways of avoiding the most terrifying yet liberating thing you could ever do. Turning inward, not the curated version of introspection, not the one with candles and playlists, but the raw, brutal kind, the kind where you sit in silence and admit, I don't know who I am when I'm not performing. I'm scared of what I'll find when the noise stops. I've built a life on running, and that's okay. There's no shame in not being okay. There's only tragedy in pretending you are and never discovering what lies beneath. Because you can't truly love yourself if you've only learned to love the filtered parts. You can't become whole if you're still editing your soul. Carl Jung didn't just theorize about the psyche, he lived its depths. He understood that real healing doesn't come from escaping the dark. It comes from entering it with eyes wide open. You won't heal by escaping the darkness. You will heal when you learn to walk through it. And walking through it doesn't mean drowning in pain. It means facing what you've buried. The guilt, the anger, the jealousy, the shame, the grief, the patterns you keep repeating even though you swore you'd never do it again. That's where the work begins. You can't meditate your way out of what you refuse to admit. You can't journal your way around the truth you still deny. You can't pray away the parts of yourself that are still waiting to be seen. So here's the invitation. Not a challenge, not a demand. An invitation to return to yourself, to stop running, to stop performing, to stop trying to fix what wasn't broken, just buried. This is the moment you step out of the light you've been chasing and into the truth that's been waiting. Shadow work isn't glamorous. It won't make you instantly happier. It won't get you validation. It won't give you quick clarity. But what it will give you, if you're brave enough, is something far more sacred. Inner freedom. The kind of freedom that doesn't depend on how others see you. The kind that isn't shaken when the world doesn't approve. The kind that allows you to walk into a room, unpolished and unapologetic, because you've made peace with your own depth. That's what becoming whole means. Not perfection, not purity, but presence. The presence of every part of you, light, dark, tender, wild, sacred, human. And the journey to that place? It starts not with more answers, but with more honesty. So ask yourself, gently but truthfully, what have you been avoiding in the name of healing? What emotion do you still silence in the name of peace? What truth do you know but pretend not to? 'Cause underneath all the masks, beneath the I'm fine, beneath the I've moved on, beneath the endless seeking is a voice. Yours, a voice that doesn't want you to be fixed. It wants you to be found. It's tired of being ignored. It's tired of the noise. It's tired of the endless chase for wholeness somewhere outside yourself. It wants you to stop, to turn around, to face the dark and listen. And if you do, you'll see that the shadow wasn't here to destroy you. It was here to reveal you. Because the light you've been searching for all this time, it's not at the end of some perfect path. It's inside the darkness you were taught to fear. So this is your moment. Not to pretend, not to escape, but to begin the work, the real work, the shadow work. Because no matter how long you've been lost, No matter how far you've run, your truth has always been waiting, not to punish you, not to shame you, but to welcome you home. Are you ready to return? If this message stirred something inside you, if even one sentence made you pause and look within, give this video a like to let the algorithm know that real conversations still matter. Subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive, because the next video might be the one that wakes up a part of you that's been silent for years. And I want to hear from you. What part of this video hit you the hardest? What truth resonated most? Leave a comment below with the lesson, quote, or moment that cracked something open for you. This isn't just content. This is a conversation, and your voice matters here.